The Disney company has shown concept art for what Frontierland is going to look like after they pave over the rivers of America and replace it with Cars Land and also Villains Land. But we can't help but think about what happened to Epcot and what was sold to us on what would be happening to Epcot. Let's talk about the Disney difference here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place. I'm getting into the groove for the week here. It's a beautiful Tuesday morning. Has the sun risen on VashSky yet?
Indeed it has. Very bright suns there, in order to use a Disney quote there. But, the sun hasn't really risen on either Epcot or Disneyland, at least following the D23 Expo, as you so beautifully pointed out in our intro of this video.
Well, yeah, we watched D23 and there were so many announcements, so much activity at D23 that it was kind of difficult to track it all. In fact, I'm wondering if that is the strategy here for the Walt Disney Company. Much like that earnings call where they announced that Taylor Swift was coming to Disney Plus and Venue was going to be coming in as a joint venture streaming service, and that Fortnite was essentially getting 10% ownership by Disney. This idea of, well, there's so much information that they can't really process all of that information, even though some of these projects will not happen for nigh a decade. But in one case, we're having a pretty easy time tracking what it is. There is a Spaceship Earth lounge coming to Epcot in 2025. The story I have up on the screen is from Blog Mickey. It's by Mike, who is, I believe, the only writer over there at Blog Mickey. A new lounge is opening in 2025 at Epcot. The lounge will be attached to Spaceship Earth and feature wonderful views of World Celebration. Now, Vash, I need to ask you, will they be attaching it to the side like a magic wand with the number 2000 on it?
Man.
Or this is an existing location that's already inside of Spaceship Earth, right?
Yes. It's either the existing location within Spaceship Earth or adjacent to it. So, yeah, there won't be any attachments to be had. It's funny that you say that, Jonas, because my first exposure to Spaceship Earth was with that wand attached on the side, and I believe it said Epcot, not 2000.
I think it said 2000, and then it also said Epcot. I don't know. I don't remember that thing. It was ugly. You know, as a person who didn't mind the 25th anniversary cake, it was strange for me to walk into Epcot and be like, oh, this is ugly. This has to go. And also, I'm bearing in mind I was much younger at the time of the 25th anniversary cake. So y'all forgive me for that in the comments. I also wasn't hosting a wedding at Walt Disney World at the time. So that's another reason. But these ideas of changing the icons, yuck.
Yeah.
We could probably have that discussion at another time. Here we have the concept art here. And look, there's two guys in tuxedos here at the bottom. I just have to think that this black tie event right here, look, they pulled out all the stops here. You have some geometric shapes here. You have some lights that kind of remind everybody of the geodesic dome. That looks like Journey into your imagination all the way over there. And what is this? Is it supposed to be Xandar in the concept art? I don't know that this actual view exists.
Yeah, that's the thing that we're trying to figure out with this, regardless of where this is actually going to be located. You know, the food and drink park, I guess, is living up to its name, or at least in the minds of executives who are approving such additions like this. It's like, hey, people just go there to drink and I guess get wasted anyway. Let's go ahead and provide them an expansion of a means to do so.
Right. And I would encourage anyone here, if you're following my method, don't drink. But if you are a person who drinks, please drink responsibly. You are at a theme park that is supposed to be for children. No need to go crazy with it. It's also probably the most expensive way to drink irresponsibly as well. So the thing that I want to point out, obviously, Test Track also coming in 2025. But we did just get done with a huge Epcot transformation, as it were. And if you follow Disney's recent press, they announced all those years ago, Bob Chapek announced that they would be getting a stage, a cafeteria with no serving utilities, some broken lights, a planter, Journey into Water, and what was the other one? Luminous, The Journey of Us. That was what was announced by Bob Chapek, correct?
I don't think so. I don't think nearly any of those projects were announced, except for maybe Journey of Water at the time there. But it was a far more ambitious plan, Jonas, I think is what you're getting at right there. We had a wonderful entrance concept there. We had the festival structure, which, to much the connotation of Culture Casino there. He was not excited for that at all. But we had a redo of Spaceship Earth itself, not just a lounge, but a redo, a refurbishment, a reimagining of the iconic attraction there from its opening day. We had the Play Pavilion. We had the Mary Poppins attraction.
Yes.
There was a talk of a Coco ride, or at least that's what was shown in the model there. The guitar famous from that movie actually, kind of just propped up against the Mexico Pavilion. There were a slew of different things that were teased, hinted, and announced officially, and unfortunately, very little of that actually came to pass.
Right, and they had 6 years behind walls to get this all. And this is the thing that I'm trying to point out here, as we also talk about what they're talking about doing to Walt Disney World, Magic Kingdom, very specifically in all of this. They're talking about taking out the Rivers of America. They've said that Tom Sawyer Island and Rivers of America are going away. That is exactly what has been said in the Disney Parks blog post. So this is not that we're hearing a rumor. This is what Disney has said. And the only saving grace here is the fact that Disney is often wrong in what ends up actually happening here. So Vash and I went through the Bob Chapek presentation from back in the day, and Vash is, of course, correct, as he often is here. There was something called the Play Pavilion. That never happened. Was the Play Pavilion also the same as the observation deck that was supposed to be for fireworks viewing there?
No, the Play Pavilion was going to be in the Wonders of Life Pavilion structure, and there was a great many resources actually poured into that structure in order to get it ready for the Play Pavilion installation there. They did a copious amounts of work on the roof and so forth in order to get that structure all prepared, like I said, for that installation process. I believe the Festival Pavilion, or that festival structure there, the very tip of World Showcase Lagoon, right? Mm-hmm. That was going to be the observation deck for not Luminous, but Harmonious back in the day. Well, that didn't happen either. And even Harmonious got cutbacks too, right? Those barges and so forth were supposed to move every single night. And unfortunately, those were moored in place by the time the show opened.
Right. And that is ultimately why people hated Harmonious so much. The show was fine. It was cheesy, but not in the classic Disney way that things are cheesy. I like cheesy, but it was such a strange thing to see these death tacos in the Stargate in the middle of World Showcase Lagoon. And there's no getting around the fact that this lagoon is here. It's the primary fireworks location for the entire park. But I suppose it's in danger now if they ever decide they need more land, since waterways are now on the target list if Disney needs to add more attractions, which, by the way, Epcot needs to fix the existing attractions or maybe add attractions to some of the pavilions, the different countries in the World Showcase before they do this. Anyways, the Mary Poppins ride, that was announced, and it was going to be an upgrade to the England area of the World Showcase. And this one was going to feature what could be described as a Mad Tea Party-ish attraction, and it was going to be in an area that is very underutilized in the England.
I believe it's called the UK Pavilion, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. This went on for long enough that even Bob Chapek was asked, is that still going to happen? And he said, yes. This was years later, and he still confirmed. And this never happened. And of course, the journey of the Storylight that was supposed to be taking us through an upgraded Spaceship Earth, instead of the one where you're looking at an iPad the entire time while there's a ride going on around you, this version of Spaceship Earth was supposed to be guided through the process of storytelling throughout the years, which I think, by the way, that might be a more timeless idea than what has been in there in the past. Obviously, the one with Dame Judi Dench, again, the iPads were atrocious and were a little dated very quickly. The Jeremy Irons version of the ride, obviously we had passed through that. I think about the idea of the webcam technology. I was like, man, when is that going to happen? And then after it happened, it was like, wow, this is incredibly dated. So Now we essentially have a busted spaceship Earth that they can't even keep the ACs running. In thinking about all of these things that did not go in, and Communicore Plaza, the less that goes into that, the fact that they ripped out the Fountain of Nations, and depending on how you look at it, replaced it with Journey of Water and a planter that is supposed to be surrounded with lights. By the way, we are hearing that they have no intention of fixing those lights right now for budgetary reasons. So now we look at Rivers of America and the Cars land that is supposed to be going here and the Villains land that is supposed to be going into, and when I say here, I mean Magic Kingdom. I don't have a lot of hope that this is actually going to turn out the way that they have described it to those at D23 and all of us, peons catching some of the news secondhand here. Vash, how much of Cars Land do you think is actually going to happen?
At this point, I mean, that concept art looks ambitious, but at the same time, it looks kind of rushed. If you look at it, people have been pointing out, oh, look, they're using the facades from Paris, not even from Magic Kingdom. That is true, absolutely, 100%. But if you look at the orientation of everything, why is the Blizzard Mountain or whatever right next to Liberty Square? That doesn't make any sense at all. I guess the Tree of Liberty must be occasionally refreshed by motor oil and, I don't know, melted ice there? Very, very strange to me, but shouldn't that be on the opposite corner? And then this estate that you see there, it's oriented the wrong way. It's so bizarre. It's so strange. So I would expect, to put the best it'll ever look. I'll put it that way, Jonas. We just have a history of these things being cut back, whittled down, and being budgeted in such a way that what we see in the concept art just doesn't come to fruition or in reality. So if I would have to put a number on it, probably about 60% of that we're actually going to get, I would imagine.
Well, you think about the history of concept art. First of all, Westcott comes to mind. The image of Westcott out there on the West Coast. I get it now. I'm just joking. Versus Disney's California Adventure. I keep getting flack in the comments. It's Disney California Adventure. Well, at one time I was correct. That postcard view was not long for this world either, or even Disney Sea, which many people agree is the greatest theme park in the entire world. It's the greatest Disney park in the entire world. Even looking at that, there's a little bit more of an Epcot-y feel to that concept art that exists out there. And instead they got a volcano. I'm not saying the volcano is bad. I'm just saying that concept art and what actually exists, I'm not sure that whatever is going on in Imagineering, that the tide is going to be turned before we get to the actual paving of the Rivers of America. And there's a lot of, hey, they could do it this way and it wouldn't be so bad. Hey, they could do it this way and it wouldn't be so bad. By the way, the animation courtyard, that's probably going to be going away. So don't worry about the Muppets. Obviously, that's Hollywood Studios. Don't get mad at me if I call it Disney MGM Studios. I just don't have a lot of, I don't know if it's hope or if it's wishful thinking here. I don't see this happening even as good as the concept art. Vash, has there been anything that the concept art comes out and then they exceed that concept art image?
Oh, man, I have to really think about that one, Jonas. That's a good question. I really have to think about that long and hard. But people have been noting the discrepancy between the concept art and what is actually coming to reality. I mean, there have been a slew of different announcements that don't match up with reality. Remember the Main Street Theater? What happened to that? Reflections? That DVC property? What's going on there? Who knows? I heard there's movement there, but suffice to say, look, Tiana, a lot of people have been noting, it's like, look, listen, you promised this whole big thing here with Odie's boat and so forth at the top, and we got none of that. So as Gordon Ramsay has said before, you're only as good as your last dish. And honestly, as an Imagineering crew, you're really only as good as your last couple of projects, and they really haven't been good, at least stateside. And that has put a lot of, let's say, trepidation in the minds of guests and fans who are looking forward to these announcements. They're just going, yeah, but we'll have to wait and see just how good these things will be. And honestly, that's the reputation that they've earned, really. As opposed to Epic Universe, for example, or Universal, what they announce and what they show is pretty much what you get. And it's astounding that the discrepancies have been relatively consistent when you look at Disney conversely.
That's a very good point. Now, with that, we want to throw this to our commenters here. Do you think that we're just being negative here? And as we are sometimes accused of being quite negative on this channel about the future of Disney, do you think they're going to pull through on this one? Do you think that $30 billion is going to be put into the Magic Kingdom and create something spectacular that when you walk into the park, you're going to see basically the Matterhorn or whatever the modern equivalent of the Matterhorn would be, but this time with cars and no Disco Yeti? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Of course, if you could like this video, that would help us out quite a bit. And if you wouldn't mind, consider subscribing to That Park Plays for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Plays News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.